All right, starting the podcast now. Starting the podcast. Holy cow. Welcome back, Moto Academy podcast. This is the #1 podcast in motocross, and guess what we're doing today? We're bringing back the solo episodes because Allie bailed on me. I can hear her upstairs with Millie right now. Before we start, I want to talk to you guys about some of the tour dates that we've got coming up. Moto Academy is going everywhere. We're going everywhere. And where the heck are we going? May 31st, Wildcat Creek. Almost threw up. Indiana. Awesome track. That will be Coach Mitchell hanging out with you guys there. May 31st. Man, dividing and conquering simultaneously. I'll be at Skyline MX in Idaho. I think there's only about 1 or 2 spots left for that class. By the time this comes out, it might be sold out already. Can't wait for that one. June 2nd, we've got Mitchell going to Last Chance Raceway in Montana. Super cool. June 5th, we've got Coach Mitchell going to Compound MX in Fulton, New York. Also, June 6th, brand new, Mastering the Basics. This is a course that we've created with Coach Mitchell. That will be at Compound MX in New York, to where if you guys are first-time moto people, if you're brand new to trying to get to the track, or if you just want a technique reset, the Mastering the Basics course will be the perfect way for you guys to learn or to refresh if you need it. I'm really excited to break this out. I think especially lately, we've had a lot of brand new riders showing up, and I want to make sure we have a course specifically for you guys. June 7th, I'll be at 508. We booked another class in Massachusetts. That one just popped up on the calendar, so make sure you get signed up for that. Likely, since there wasn't much time for us to book that one, that's going to be smaller class size. So if you guys want a small class size, that's going to be it. June 7th, Coach Mitchell, he'll be at ADKMX in New York. June 12th, I'm going to Moto 101 in the UK. That class is sold out. June 14th, Blackwell Heath in the UK. Can't wait. June 15th, we've got Mitchell going to Deer Creek MX in Arkansas. June 22nd, I'm going to be in Michigan, Super Coupe MX. June 24th, Wild Rose MX featuring Spencer Wilton. That will be Mitchell and Spencer in Calgary, Alberta. That would be awesome. June 27th, we've got Mitchell going to BP73 Moto Ranch in Minnesota. June 28th, I'm going to Martin MX in Michigan. Love that track. June 30th, Mitchell going to Iowa, Oak Ridge MX. And those are our June classes. We're going absolutely everywhere. Go to themotoacademy.com. Check out all of these classes. Check out the Mastering the Basics. We also, don't forget, we've got summer camps. Tomahawk MX, July 8th through the 12th. That's a full week of riding, training, and fun. Hedgesville, West Virginia, Tomahawk MX. We also have Sunset Ridge in Illinois, August 5th to the 9th. Another full week summer camp. Going to be completely epic. You guys can sign up for day passes for those as well if you can't commit to the full week. Okay. Guys, solo episode. And what that means today is I'm going to answer, if I can find it, I'm going to answer some questions. I'm going to use this episode to answer some questions. But first, I'm going to talk about what I've been up to the last week or two. Starting with Salt Lake City. Flew to Salt Lake City. Brought 2 videographers. I had Grant and Cross go. Shout out to Grant and Cross. And it was an absolute blast. But I was testing a new Boonie hat. And I tell you what, it looks sweet and it's super comfortable. And they're going to sell like hotcakes. But the brim on the Boonie hat is a little smaller. And it only covers to just about the tip of my nose, and my lips got absolutely completely annihilated. I've never got, like, it was almost like I got sun poisoning on my lips. I had like 7 or 8 blisters on my bottom lip. And this was, when was that class? 3 weeks ago? And I still, that's why we didn't have any episodes last week, because my lips looked absolutely horrible. Absolutely. They're still horrible, but they're better. I mean, holy cow. So I've got some SPF stuff that I'm going to use from now on. Although I knew about putting stuff to protect my lips. I just thought that the brim, miscalculated the brim. We had a brim miscalculation. It happens to the best of us. Lesson learned. Other than that, Salt Lake City was awesome. There's a track called Jordan River State Park. Is that what it is? It's state owned, which means that the track owner, he's not the track owner, the person that runs the track is a state employee that gets a 401k and a pension, the whole deal. And it's amazing. It's funded by the state. It is right by the airport, view of the mountains in the background. It has like 4 different tracks on property. That will definitely be one in 2025 that we do a summer camp, without a doubt. Got Starbucks today. Haven't had Starbucks in a little while, but our coffee place was closed, so we went back to Star Daddy's. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So we had Salt Lake City, fried my lips. We also did class with Rich Larson, off-road instructor, which was super fun. He's really articulate. He's probably the best instructor that I've worked with. I've worked with a lot of people that have done really amazing, but he's great. Really great. Knows how to articulate. Like, he kind of has a good tone of his voice, so he's not boring to listen to. And I feel like he's kind of like me in the off-road space, in that, like, if you want the visual, oh, he's going to create that visual for you because he'll do it himself. And he's got a ton of bike skill to be able to do it. So super cool. We filmed an off-road master course with him the day after class. So I think we have 20 episodes of that will be coming out in the app next month. And what's funny about the master course too is it's me kind of being the guinea pig and doing it as he's instructing. So I think that's going to create an awesome visual, and you'll be able to see me learn the things as we go, which is super cool. So we had Salt Lake City. Then what? Then I had class at 508, sold out class at 508 in Massachusetts. Really fun track. It was a perfect track for doing class because it's pretty basic and easy. A lot of space to work with. That was a very, very fun group. And then I just got back from, where was I? Because it was another beautiful new location that we've done. Tootle MX, Riverdale MX, Tootle MX, don't know which one it is, in Washington. Flew into Portland, Oregon. Had class in Washington. Beautiful location. And we invited Adam Entignap to be a guest instructor for that one. We've been having guest instructors left and right, by the way. And Adam killed it. He killed it. No surprise that he is like extremely personable and but a good instructor. I know he's been doing it with his brother Tyler a good bit, so he definitely has some instructing experience, and it was a blast working with him. So that was a sold out class, super fun, great group of riders. Can't wait to go back there. I know Coach Mitchell's going back there, I think in August, but we're going to book another date with me there later this fall too, which would be awesome. And yeah, that's what we've been up to. So I'm going to dive right into questions. Why not? Real quick shout out. Absolutely everybody inside of the Moto Academy app. I am so crazy grateful for you guys in just seeing the community come together in this new platform. And the level of autonomy is everything that I envisioned and more, meaning I felt a lot of pressure in the last app to be in there. I mean, I was in there for countless hours every single day to not even like stay afloat. Like I was still falling behind and I just couldn't keep up. And I felt that pressure to constantly be putting content in that old app because it just didn't integrate the community like this new one is capable of. And now seeing you guys take it and run with it, it's freaking amazing. I will, go and travel to a class, come back, take a day off. So I'll be 48 hours not going in the app. And when I come back in, there is so much to get caught up on, fun stuff to see, you guys engaging with each other. If a coaching wanted post goes up and you guys are asking for advice and I didn't get back to you yet within those couple of days, you got Coach Mitchell in there responding. You've got driver Jamie in there helping out. All the other members in there sending in their best advice. And what's really cool is it's not like a public forum where you ask a question and gosh knows what the response is that you're going to get. You get actual really accurate feedback because they're all diehard OG Moto Academy members that essentially I could just pick any of them and go have them do a class and they could go teach class because that information is so ingrained in so many of you guys. So I'm so crazy grateful. And what's cool, especially when I go to these new locations for classes, is to hit these regions that I haven't hit before. But yet when I show up, familiar faces left and right. We had Isaac hanging out with me at class in Washington, and he was doing this little spectator action because he had his broken wing. He had his arm in a sling, and he's in the Moto Academy, so he was awesome. We had the other spectator. Why the heck can't I remember his first name? I know his username. And he was hanging out with us the whole time. We had Justin Stuck participating in class, who's been, he's fairly new to the Moto Academy app, but he's been really engaging like crazy. Rode his bike but pretty much the whole day at class. So that was sweet. Thank you, Justin. And yeah, just showing up to these classes and seeing familiar faces and meeting all of you guys for the first time is so freaking cool. It's the best. It's the best. And lately, and I don't see this changing, I've been in a season of my life where I don't use my phone and I don't use social media. And that was kind of the idea with scaling the team the way that I did. Allie and I were talking about it this morning. The amount of money that we make compared to the amount of money that we spend on employees is really lopsided. Really lopsided, but I did that for a reason. And I did that because I value time. I wanted to create freedom of time. And with that, I'm doing everything I can to stay away from my phone as much as possible and to just be there with Allie and Millie. And we've been able to enjoy that. And when I do go to my phone, I don't go to Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube or any of that stuff. I go to the Moto Academy app. And instead of creating anxiety or any of those weird feelings that social media can sometimes create, I go in the app and I just feel almost recharged, right? So it's just awesome to be able to have that. So thank you guys. Speaking of the app, all of these questions are app members posting their questions. If you guys have questions that you want answered on the podcast and you're inside of the Moto Academy app, just use the hashtag podcast questions. It's as simple as that. You can comment them. You can post a video in the feed and hashtag podcast questions. You can post a picture and hashtag podcast questions. Whatever you do, we're going to see it. And we're going to try to answer basically every single one of them. Okay. Without further ado, question from CR4stroke 250. CR4stroke 250. Absolutely crazy username. Hang on. All right, question from CR4stroke 250. Where is your favorite place to live and why? Oh boy. Well, currently I would say it's in Connecticut because that's where we are now. And why? It would be because we are here for the seasons that people would want to be here, which is May through November. So we get to experience like the best seasons of Connecticut. East Coast feels like home. You got green grass, you've got trees, which kind of makes you feel a little bit more homey instead of like vast openness where when you get out west, something feels different about like when there's not those trees and you can see forever. Not that it's bad, but it's just different. It doesn't feel like home to me. Where we live. Hey, I'm podcasting. Hello? So many noises. What the heck was I saying? Yeah, where we live here, you have the farms all around us. You have the green grass. You have the trees. You have a little bit of like mountains, which are basically just big hills in Connecticut. But I don't know. I'm sure there's other places that are scenically nicer. We're near family here, which is nice. We loved Northern Virginia. I think if I were to point at the map and choose anywhere to live 12 months out of the year right now, I would say Northern Virginia. We lived in Reston. We lived in Leesburg. Absolutely beautiful areas, expensive areas to live. Like the two towns that we lived in were the two richest counties in the United States. But that's nice because what it does is it like very little crime, if any. Never saw anything, never felt sketched out. It was perfect. Very clean. Restaurants, shopping, trails for riding mountain bikes, trails for riding road bikes, you name it, it had it. Best airport, Washington Dulles Airport, I love. Yeah. But that might change. And if that changes, we'll move, which we've been doing a lot of the last 5 years. So Also, CR 4-stroke 250 asked, are we going to see AJ race some pro races in 2025? I know everything has been very busy for you too, but we miss seeing AJ out there. 2025, the way I answer that question is yes, I will come back to race and do the 5-year experiment that I really want to try. But I will not do that until Moto Academy has our first physical location and I can train at our physical location. And I don't think that I will make an exception to that. That could also change. We could have our first physical location and I could decide that I'm not going to race anymore. But I think that once we have it and I'm going to be riding with our students and community members every day, I'm going to get fast and feel fit again and I'll want to race again. And I think the 5-year experiment will be fun. So yeah, I'd say very likely that I'll race in 2025. Dawson 401, shout out Dawson 401. What's the drip and shoe game like? Okay, well, the drip, we got the Black Fox hoodie with a zip on the side, kind of crafty with it. We got aloe sweatpants, pretty comfortable. And then we got the Birkenstocks. We got the Birkenstocks. Got these in Dubai, limited edition, super comfortable. Birkenstocks barefoot, you're gonna look like a dork. Birkenstocks with socks, I think actually look pretty cool and comfortable. I wore them for the first day in Dubai and we did a lot of walking through the mall. Biggest mall in the world, by the way, I think. That was a mistake, destroyed my feet. But since then, and I've kind of worked them in, highly recommend. Good question, Dawson 401. Next question, Cam Baker. Did AJ ever race against a guy named Joey Crown? Sure did. He's a guy from my area and I saw a pic of him on the podium next to a guy that looked like AJ. Is this him? That's funny that you saw that photo and don't know the story to that. Yeah, that was the year Joey Crown won. Did I get second or third? I got third. And that was the year I did the Travis Pastrana tribute. So Joey was very fast. He was, I think, second fastest guy realistically behind me that day, that weekend. And I Supermaned myself. So I Supermaned myself in a run with Joey Crown. Joey Crown was the guy that was behind me in that run. And so I ended up losing head-to-head versus him, which then was why I got third instead of winning. But that's okay. The Superman incident ended up working out for the better. Yeah, he's very fast. I don't know what he's up to now. I think he might have had an injury or something happen and he doesn't race anymore because of that. Not sure. But he was fast. All right, what do we got here? Next question, Two Smoke Tony. Heck of a username. As a new rider, how do you get out of the mindset of always feeling like everyone at the track is way faster than you? And like literally nobody is ever at your level of beginner. I've been riding for 6 months now, and besides maybe one time, I'm always the only one on the track that is at the level of just starting out. I try and stay my line and not get in the way, but I'm constantly getting my doors blown off like I'm standing still. Great question, and that's difficult situation to be in. I think it would, Two Smoke Tony, I think it would depend what region you live in and what track you go to, because, and this varies with the classes that we do as well. Some classes I go to teach and I'm like, holy cow, everybody's very fast here. Some classes I go to teach and I'm like, wow, everybody's very new and slow. So that can be tricky. But what I always try to remind people of is like, put yourself in good situations. You don't want to be the guy going out there that feels brand new and is going slow and trying to focus on going slow and doing your thing. And yet you have 30 other guys out there with you that are jumping over your head and kind of riding maybe a little bit reckless. Avoid that situation if you can, because it's going to do a few things. One, it's going to put you in harm's way because guys are going to be coming past you fast. And let's face it, you probably can't trust most of those guys, right? They might accidentally jump and land on you, which is worst case scenario, and not be able to look far enough ahead for the speed that they're going because they might be riding above and beyond their comfort zone. It might also pressure you to feel like you need to ride above and beyond your comfort zone. It will sometimes, depending on your mindset, it can really make you worry about what's going on behind you and just kind of being stressed out more so than just riding your pace. So what I will say is, even in those situations, let's say you show up to a track and you're out there with like 5, 10, maybe 15 other people. Just find your space, try to get by yourself. When somebody does approach you, just hold your line. If you are a slower guy, it is safer to, when you get into the straightaways, to ride the right and stay on the right side. So that way there's more track room to the left. So if people do decide to jump, there's room to do it. If they're going to fly by you, there's room to do it. If you're going dead center, there's less room. It makes it also, as somebody that's faster approaching a slow guy, I get nervous when somebody's riding dead center because I just don't know which way they're going to go, right? Don't look over your shoulder, because when you do that, you swerve. I had a rider do it at class this weekend. Thankfully, nothing happened, but I saw it coming. They were going nice and slow, and there was a fast guy coming on their left, fast guy coming on the right, and kind of like splitting the difference. And he looked over his right side. He saw the person come by on the left. He looked over his right because he thought he was clear to move, and there was somebody else coming. So the more predictable you can be, the better. Just do your best to hold your line. But I empathize for you, because that's tough. That's tough. And I think that's one of the leading reasons that people get hurt and don't learn to ride the right way, is because they're thrown into a track environment where it's just everybody's trying too hard to go too fast, and they're just kind of like thrown to the wolves. And she's like, well, all right, well, we'll twist the throttle and hope for the best, right? Next question. Mike and Andrew. Shout out Mike and Andrew. Long-term TMA goals. Would you rather attract more varied mindset of riders who are less open to change and possibly argumentative, or a smaller group of more dedicated riders? The larger group will be likely to come and go, but the smaller group would be dedicated and aligned with your goals, but would be much smaller. Mike and Andrew, great question. So there's a lot of people that will, like high-level business people, that will kind of tell you to focus on delivering the best possible product and selling to like that core 100 people, instead of trying to make a product that you think is like adapting that product and trying to make it available to it and good for absolutely everybody. Focus on your niche, focus on that group of 100. And yes, it might be a smaller group, but it's such a dedicated group that they will stay forever. And in building the community that we're trying to build, that's the whole goal. So it might start out feeling like a niche thing, but as it grows, it's going to feel less niche, and more people are going to hop on the bandwagon and hop on the community. And yeah, I think that's the goal, right? At first, it was me talking about the feet on the pegs. When I started talking about feet on the pegs as much as I was, and this was early days, 2018, 2019, everybody thought I was completely wrong, right? And now you're starting to see that more and more people are trying to train that way, simplify the training, because that makes sense. Yeah, I think that in our videos, we definitely try to get views, which requires sort of casting a wide net. But even in the views, the stuff that usually gets views is the thing that like is argumentative, is like an opinion that I might have that select few agree with. And then everybody else is kind of like, no, that's wrong. I think this. Yeah, great question. And interesting thing to always think about, right? And we're definitely in a stage of the business right now where it's easy to get distracted by thinking that you need to bow down to the masses, so to speak. And I don't think that's the move. I really don't. I think we've done well so far with focusing on creating a product that appeals to like our niche and just growing that niche. Nothing like the last watered down sip of Starbucks. Shout out. Matthew Giffing. When will TMA come to Oklahoma? You know, I'm sure we've come to Oklahoma before. I know we have. Can't remember which track. And I think the class sold pretty well. But the tricky thing, there's certain regions of the country. You kind of have like Florida, Texas, and Southern California, and Oklahoma, and Georgia maybe, that are very much like training facility pockets. Although Southern California doesn't have training facilities, really. They have more just like trainers everywhere, right? And you could show up to the local track on any given day of the week and there's factory guys riding there. So I think it creates a bit of like jadedness within the riding community. They're used to seeing fast people. They don't really care about getting that training from the Moto Academy, maybe as much. I'm speaking generally here. I think that we've experienced that same thing in Oklahoma. Like all the tracks that we've tried to reach out to, half of them kind of operate as training facilities, and they didn't even really have interest in us going. So if you know of a place and you think it'd be a good region for us to bring the Moto Academy, Matt, let us know. We'll make it happen. Loki, we got Loki Hampson. Podcast question. He's got a two-parter here. Part one. If you were 10 years younger, looking at the person you are today, what would you ask your current self and what would you answer? Taking into account your answer, would you ask that same question to yourself in 10 years if they were standing in front of you? Oh boy, I'm just going to throw a question like that at me. If you were 10 years younger, looking at the person you are today, what would you ask your current self? Well, I'd probably ask my current self, how did you do it? Because if you rewind 10 years ago, I was 20 years old. Holy cow, I was 20 years old and I was probably, not that money matters, but I was probably making anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000 a year. That would be my guess. So I would ask how you did it, and my answer would be, the problem is I wouldn't believe my answer. The answer would be think bigger and believe that you can create something amazing. Maybe don't focus on the racing so much, or if you do, really go all in and believe that you can win. Why not? Or think even bigger than that. And what does that lead you to? Well, for me, very quickly, when I started to think bigger and ask the right questions, I arrived at the answer of growing a community is the biggest thing and the best thing, the most rewarding thing that I could do, right? And with that, you provide so much value that you end up making the money that you wanted to make in the first place because you're providing such a valuable service, and that valuable service is that of teaching people how to ride their dirt bikes and creating a community. So yeah, think bigger, think bigger. Because 10 years ago, a lot of what I was hearing was, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I heard that so many times. So that was sort of the belief system. One of the belief systems that I was operating under was, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So anytime something appeared to be good, or even in other people's lives appeared to be good, I would write it off as luck. Or, they ran into this chance opportunity and they didn't really deserve it. And so basically just not understanding how things work and what is actually possible. My mindset now is, I believe that anything is possible for anybody. I do. Great question. And then the second part of that, part two of the question, taking into account your answer, would you ask that same question to yourself in 10 years? No, I wouldn't. If they were standing in front of you. No, right now at 30, I would not ask 40-year-old AJ, how did you do it? Because I know how for the most part, I've got a good feeling how 40-year-old AJ is going to have done it at that point. I really do. It's all laid out in front of me. I've ran through the vision 1 million times. I continue to run through it every single day. I'm also aware enough that to create that, I have to have the flexibility to be able to defer and take the forks in the road and not just stick to the rigidity of the vision, because in 10 years, it's probably going to look slightly different than what I envision it to be. I get that. What question would I maybe ask? I don't know. If I knew that question, I can't predict what the question would be in the future, or else I wouldn't ask the question because I would know the answer. Does that make sense? Part two, Loki Hampson. How do you feel about the phrase, you should be the strongest person at your father's funeral? And how do you become that? I've never heard that phrase before. And what does that mean? You should be the strongest person at your father's funeral. I don't know what that means. And I don't know if I agree with it, really. I mean, what does that mean? I don't know. Loki Hampson, I'd like to hear what you mean by that. You should be the strongest person at your father's funeral. No, I mean, I think that's too subjective also. Strongest person, what does that mean? You could describe that a million different ways. I think you could be whatever you want at your father's funeral. You'd be the weakest person if you want. All right. Great questions, by the way. Stumped me with that one. Don't get stumped often. Next question, Jacob Lilly. My brother has a messed up right ankle, doesn't have much mobility, so he bought a rear brake lever that goes above his clutch so he can effectively use his rear brake. Could this be an advantage on the track? Above the clutch. That's interesting. Yeah, so one of the reasons I enjoy riding the Stark is because I have the rear brake as the hand control and I've got nothing on the feet. You don't have to shift the Stark. You don't have to hit the rear brake on the feet. It's just all up at the hands. So that way the feet can just focus on doing the right thing, which is just adjusting to be tight and get them out of harm's way. So yeah, I don't see too many negatives to moving that control up to the hand and alleviating one less task for the feet to be doing. I think that's a great idea, especially if you have mobility issues. Yeah, I'm all for that. I don't see any negatives to that, actually. I'm sure there might be if somebody tossed the ideas back and forth with me, but can't think of any negatives to that off the top of my head. Josh Herman. Thought it used to be Joe Sherman, but it is definitely Josh Herman, according to the new app. I've been trying to go into each riding with the intention to focus on one specific thing. Primarily, it's body position, but some days I like to focus on jumping, cornering, etc. Okay, I've already got something for that first part. My biggest question is, how do you focus on one thing like that while riding without letting other techniques suffer throughout the day that isn't the primary focus? Excellent question. Two parts to that answer. Part one is you need to be more specific with the intention. So your intention for the day can't be corners. What does that mean? There's a million things you could do within a corner. You need to specify. Like, my focus today is going to be getting off the rear brake early so I can flow through the first third of the turn. Great, leave it at that. My focus today is going to be really focusing on core strength to be able to fix my posture so I can have my hips in the right position while I'm going through the mid part of the corner or the exit of the corner. Great. Leave it at that. Be specific, keep it short and simple to one thing and focus on that one thing throughout the day or for each session that you go out. I do the same. A slightly leveled up version of that I'll do, especially woods riding. And as I've learned the woods loop that I'm doing, and this is the same thing in the track, is I consciously focus on different things when I get to different sections. So there's one corner specifically that is a rut, left-hand rut with like 8 roots going through it. And the roots are all aimed different directions. It's horrible. I have tried that corner a million different ways and I still haven't really hit it that great yet. But the one thing I have to ultra focus on in that corner is my hip position and tightening my abs to keep my upper body upright. Because as soon as the front tire hits and deflects off the roots, the first thing that wants to happen is my head wants to dip down inside of the bike. So if I can really get the core right, I can allow the bike to make those errors and washouts and be fine. So like that's the focus when I get to that section. And that focus can shift corner to corner and section to section. For more of a less experienced rider, you might want to focus on one thing around the whole lap without confusing yourself too much. Second part to that is, how do I not let the other techniques suffer? Great question. And the answer is you need to let the other techniques suffer. You can only consciously think about one thing at any given time. You cannot consciously think about more than one thing. So what that means is that when you're consciously thinking about the one thing, guess what all the other movements and techniques are going to start doing? They will go to your automatic, to your subconscious, to the downloaded program, which means that if you haven't established good habits yet with all of those other things, you will resort back to all of the old habits. You have to be okay with that. I think once you accept that fact, it will allow you to have patience with your progression. If you don't accept that fact, you're always going to be getting distracted and shifting focus to this thing that you're messing up, then getting distracted and shifting focus to this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing. And you're never going to actually make progress. Focus on one thing, be okay with the rest of it falling apart when you're focused on that one thing. I never realized that until kind of recently, and until I understood psychology and how the brain works, right? So realize that, be patient with yourself, go slow so that when the other things do fall apart, it doesn't get too dangerous. And then do your best to really, really practice the one thing until it becomes subconscious, automatic. And it's a beautiful thing because once it does, basically you can cross that thing off the list for now and move on to the next one. And then your downloaded behavior might not have to be perfect, right? But let's say it's 60% of the way there. It's better than 20%. So that way it won't fall apart as much when you move on to the next thing. Hopefully that makes sense. That's at least how I approach it. And I think that's a useful tip. Andy Shear. Shout out Andy. Awesome dude. OG app member. That's a question for Allie. Just kidding. Not going to answer that one. Okay, I need a bathroom break. Holy moly me, oh my. Okay, I'm back. All right, Brucey Diesel. Question from Brucey Diesel. Jeezum, I go away for a PSA dog trial weekend in North Carolina. I ignore my phone and I come back to 94 Moto Academy notifications. App is popping off. Anyways, podcast question. So I've asked a member on the DL about it and they didn't know this story either. I'll be embarrassed if it's something obvious, but true to my style, I'm still going to send it and own the embarrassment. Is there a story / significance to why your race number is 330? Brucey Diesel, good question. And this is the significance. I grew up in house number 30. And so 30 became my number from, I'm pretty sure, the very beginning. Yeah, I'm looking at a photo right now to my left, and I was 4 years old on that bike. And I was number 30, and I was number 30 even before that. So it started with our house number. Then when you turn pro, you can't just pick a 2-digit number. You need a 3-digit, and I went to 330. That was it. Stuck with 330 ever since, but 30 really is the OG, right? If I were to earn a career number, a lifetime 2-digit number in the AMA, I'd pick 30. And who's got it right now? Shimoda. Josh Shimoda stole it. It's okay. We can get it back. Oh, that's all of them. Well, that's all the ones that Allie sent me at least. So I'm sure there's more. If you guys want to ask your questions, again, hashtag podcast questions inside of the app. Go to themotoacademy.com and subscribe to the app, by the way, if you're not in there yet, because it's the best place ever. I'm going to quickly just note to Allie that the question from Andy Shear was for us. Okay. Editor's note. Cut that out. All right, guys. My thing's saying 53 minutes. I did some podcast deliverables and some ads before this started, so maybe a short, digestible episode today. What else is there to talk about? Not really much, I don't think. We got Millie upstairs hanging out with my mom. Allie just went to the gym. I think she's getting an F45 membership again. So that's cool. Getting some workouts in. I haven't been working out. I've just been riding in the woods like nobody's business. I guess I could talk about that for a second. So I'm able to just leave straight from my house and ride on the Stark, which is the most convenient thing of all time. And I've created a loop in the woods. I didn't create it. It was cut in, but I kind of pieced together my own track out of it. Still don't know how long it is. I'm going to guess it's 6 minutes. It feels like a while. And oh my God, it's so much fun. It is so much fun, especially when it's silent. There's something about riding in the woods with it being quiet. And I got these Cardo systems on my helmet now. I'm going to go out probably in the next day or two. And I haven't tried this yet. With the Cardo system, the volume and it sounds so nice in there. I'm going to just listen to music. So just cruising through the woods, getting in the flow, listening to music. Last few times I had the Cardo system to communicate with the people I was out there with and to talk to the mic, but I just want to go out there solo and just listen to some music. That would be fun. Talk about getting in the flow. I just have to constantly remind myself to slow down because what happens is I just start going faster and faster and faster and fast. And it's comfortable, right? It's not like I'm ever pushing, but I have these like conscious moments of, oh boy, you know what? If something were to happen right now, that tree is not going to move. I don't really feel like smacking that tree at 50 miles an hour. So I do find that on the track, I don't really have those moments. On the track, I get in a flow and I go faster and faster and faster and faster. And as long as I'm within the flow, I never stop going faster, basically. In the woods, it reaches a point at which where I'm like, this is good. This is good. And I have to just stay there, which then becomes tough because now I'm like thinking. So it's tough. It's tough. Riding the woods is no joke, especially on the Stark without the clutch. It can be difficult in spots, but absolute blast. And to be able to come back and just like have a muddy bike and spray it off. It's such an easy bike to clean because there's not like anything to really, it's just like a brick, right? And then after I clean it, maybe I spray some WD-40 on the chain. Usually I'll forget. And then I'll just plug it in and it's good to go. Holy cow. So convenient. And the reason I've been doing this, aside from pure laziness, is that with the baby, my time is super limited. And outside of the traveling is the one time that I'm okay with just, I'm away. What am I going to do, right? I'm away from Allie. I'm away from the baby. When I'm home, I want to be home. And so when I have to go ride, I went to Massachusetts and went to the track and I clocked it. It was like I left the house at 8:30. I didn't get back until 4. And I only put like 40 minutes of ride time on the bike. So it was, what is that math? It was a 6 or 7 hour day just to get 40 minutes. And it cost me $50 to ride the track, all that money in fuel, right? Not worth it. Not worth it for me, at least, when I had the option to just ride right out the back and go into the woods. It's just too darn convenient. It really is. So if those of you have access to ride in a field or a backyard or go out in the woods, be grateful for that because it's an amazing opportunity that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people don't have the option to be able to do that, and they have to drive a half hour at best, right? An hour and a half, 2 hours to get to their local track. And what I'll tell you guys, I commend you for those of you that work a 9-to-5 job and then make time to ride a couple of days a week and have families. I don't know how you do it. I commend you because that is such a commitment to the craft and that is such a commitment to the hobby of riding that even I don't have, and it's my job. So yeah, I commend you guys. Okay, I'm going to go hang with Millie. And again, grateful for all the Moto Academy members. This is the #1 podcast in motocross. I'm glad you guys could just be a part of it, right? Okay. Toodaloo.